Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Brother Brand Ambassador Angela Wolf here, and we have a fabulous show for you today. Tina's joining us, and I'll just give you a little hint. Do you ever go to the beach or to a party, or you need something to wrap your casserole in? Well, now you can make your own, or actually, this would really make a good gift. So we are live streaming on Brother Sewing and Crafting, Facebook and YouTube pages, so leave your comments. The only thing is Tina and I pre-recorded this, so we are going to be in the comments with you, not bringing your comments up. So say hi, say where you're from, grab some tea, and I'll go grab Tina. We'll be right back. Hello, Tina. How are you?
I'm doing so well, Angela. It's so nice to see you. How are you doing?
It's great to see you too. I told everyone to go grab their tea and I'll go grab you. I didn't mean literally grab you. I just wanted to bring you up on screen because this is going to pull you on over. Okay, this is the cutest project ever. I kind of got a little cheat because I got a sneak peek at this. And I can think of so many uses for this, not only for myself, but as gifts as well.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. And, it's one of those things that you don't realize you need it until it's time to use it. And then you're like, oh man, if only I had an awesome casserole carrier, right?
I know. So for those of you joining us, this is a very easy project. There's some quilting techniques. She's going to be using the scan and cut, the sewing and embroidery machine. So you can ask your questions still, even though we're not bringing them up, but we'll be sure to answer them in the comments. And if we can't get there, then this Brother Social team will. So Tina, you have to show everyone. This is absolutely the cutest thing ever.
Look how cute.
I love it.
And it's got that special insulation batting in it that holds in the heat. And I'll show you some tips at the end for how you can make it in the bigger size and then use it for your smaller dishes as well. So I've got a couple other picks. Let's look at those really quick. So here you can see it out at the picnic table. And what I love about it so much is those little handles. Now I've used dowel rods for mine, but you could also use like wooden spoons for the handles, which would be super cute as well. And here's another pick. And you can see how it's just going to wrap around your casserole container in both directions. Really quick and easy to get ready to pack up. And let's look really quickly at the pattern. Because it's really easy. And I use the word pattern a little bit loosely. I kind of jerry-rigged this a little based on some experimentation. But what's nice about it is you can adapt this to whatever size dishes that you have. So basically, you're going to cut two sets of materials. And so you're going to have the outer fabric, which is going to be our patchwork quilting. You're going to have that special batting that insulates heat. And you're going to have an inner fabric. And then basically I cut each one of those sets to about 2.5 times as long as my casserole dish. And it's about the width of the casserole dish plus about 1.5 inches. And you see the top one is the handle piece. That's where I have the dowel rods, or you could use the wooden spoons. I just cut half of an oval into that. It's about 5 inches across. That's where your hand goes in there. And it's about 4.5 or so inches deep. And then on the base piece, that's where we're going to put our hook and loop tape that kind of keeps it all together when we're taking it to a picnic. So really, really easy to put together.
Very easy. And I love how you showed that they could use this for any size. So, I mean, everybody might have a different size dish. So those are the general measurements. No, you can't really download that pattern, but if you want to, you can always hit replay. If you're watching this on Facebook, be sure to share it to your page. You can go back and watch this all the way through, and on YouTube, the same thing. So that way you can take a little screenshot of that if you wanted the exact measurement. So Tina, that's perfect because I doubt my bowl is going to be the same size as yours.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So let's talk a little bit about the patchwork quilting. So I used a relatively simple pattern, but I really liked it because of all the bright colors. So just so you know, my outer fabric is actually not a single piece of fabric, but I used a jelly roll set. And so if you're not familiar with a jelly roll, they come pre-packaged. They're always rolled up in a little circle, but you typically have 40 or 42 strips of fabric that are 2.5 inches wide, and then the width of fabric, which is about 42 to 44 inches long. And what's really awesome about a jelly roll is you don't have to worry about matching your fabrics. An artist has already put everything together in a way that's pleasing, and so it takes all that stress out of your fabric selection. So for mine, I simply took the jelly rolls and I sewed a set of 5 together. And so my finished width here is about 10.5 inches. And once I had the long strip sets like this, I went ahead and cross cut them then at 2.5 inches wide. And then basically the construction for this is simple. You just kind of play around with it until you like the way things are laid out, just like this. And then you're going to put right sides together here. The only thing to take a second when you're laying these out and stitching them together is do try and make sure that your seams match up between the pieces as you're joining, so it looks a little bit more, I don't know, precise, I guess. And then this is just simply a run stitch with a 1/4 inch seam that joins these. And to do that, you can use the 1/4 inch foot. For those of you with the Luminaire, you can use the sewing guide light to get that perfect 1/4 inch. And then once you're done, you've got the strip set. So you just continue to join these until you have a length that's that 2.5 times the length of your casserole dish. Now, once I got started in here, and this is all for one jelly roll pack, I thought, well, there's probably some other ways that we can put the patterns together. So here you see we have another strip set of the 5, and they've been joined and they've been cut down to about 10.5 inches, a 10.5 inch square. And then we're going to do a diagonal cut across here. And what that gets us is something that looks like this. Now you're starting to think, this is kind of interesting. So lots of different ways to join this. You can do something like this where you have the little triangle. You can run them like this so they kind of match going this way. You could even line them up like this. There's probably as many different ways to combine these as you can think of, but that's another really fun and simple pattern. But wait, I've got one more option for you that's really, really cute. And so,
Tina, I love that last one, but I'm laughing. But wait, there's more. This is amazing.
I feel like one of those TV infomercials at some point. So,
that's what I was thinking. Oh, but you don't get the wooden spoon with this.
All right, so this time I've taken the jelly roll strips and I've cut them down to a 5 inch length, and I've left that 2.5 inch wide width. And then I'm just going to start stacking them up just like this, and they're going to be joined together again with a 1/4 inch seam, right? So these two together here, then add this strip, then add this strip, and just keep going. And after a few minutes, you end up with something that looks like this, right? Now that's a little crazy, and you're probably worried about how you're going to do those seams on the side, but that's where our quilting ruler comes in. We're basically going to lay this out on the table, and we're going to true up the sides and the top and the bottom. We're just going to cut off the excess. And what we're left with is a little piece that's about 5 1/4 inches wide by that 10.5 inches long. And then you start stitching those together like this. And it's just really, really fun. And if you notice here, we almost have like a little chevron pattern that shows up. So this is another really fun and quick and easy way that you can join those strips together. Isn't that fun?
I love that. I like them all, but I think that one's one of my favorites, because when you started putting those little pieces together, I'm thinking, how are you going to sew those and get them all connected? But you just trim off the sides. That's really fun.
Isn't that fun? And you get so much color and stuff in it. And I can think of lots of different ways to use something like this: tote bags or, table runners, all kinds of cool ways that you can use something like that.
Absolutely. So, by the way, for somebody here, Tina, who maybe has never quilted and they're like, what the heck is a jelly roll? Could you just fill them in a little bit on that?
It's such an awesome thing. So you get a package, and they're normally shaped like a circle, and they're shrink wrapped. And inside you're going to have 40 or 42, I can't remember, strips that are 2.5 inches wide, and they're the width of fabric. So depending on what fabric, it could be 42 to 44 inches long. And then, so all those long cuts that are sometimes hard to do with your quilting rollers have been done for you. And all you're left to do is the little shortcuts. So they're really quick and easy to use. And again, like I said, my favorite part about them is someone else has already made sure all your fabrics coordinate. So that's awesome to work with.
That's really nice, because if you went to buy a yard of all those different pieces and then try to get them together, this is so much faster and easier. So for those of you that didn't know, now you do.
Awesome. So let's talk next about how we got our quilting pattern in here. So remember, we do have that quilt sandwich, right? Our patchwork quilt on the outside, that special batting that holds heat in the middle, and then our inner fabric. So I'm going to do something that you might not expect. I'm not a very good drawer, and so I'm actually going to use some of the shapes on my scan and cut to customize my stipple pattern for my project. And so since there's a floral print in this, I'm going to go to my scan and cut and pull out a little floral pattern. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And I'm actually using the scan and cut 330D. And I'm actually going to use that special new feature called My Connection that works between the SDX 330D and the SDX 325D and the Luminaire. And so to get started, I'm going to go to the left here, and I'm going to select My Connection. So if you're not familiar with this, the My Connection feature allows you to take shapes from your scan and cut and wirelessly transfer them into your Luminaire into the Design Center, which is what I'm going to do. And so I'm planning to send to my Luminaire, so I'll choose the send option here, and then I'll go into the pattern. And I found a really cute floral pattern that matches my project really nicely in this category here. And here it is here. So we'll pull up the little pattern, and I'll take a couple minutes here and I'll resize it so it's a better size for my project. All right, that looks great. And we'll go ahead and set it. Now, if you haven't used this before, it looks a little different here. You see this black band. And basically with My Connection, it needs to fit within at least the largest hoop on the Luminaire, which is 10 5/8 by 16. And so this is actually the area that would be outside of that 10 5/8 width. And clearly right now I'm fitting in there. So I'm going to grab my pattern here, and I'm going to make a few copies. So we'll go into Edit, Object Edit, and we'll go ahead and make a few more of these. And there's no magic to the number that you make. So here you can see I've got multiple copies, and I'll just grab them and kind of move them around to my screen so that they're not overlapping on each other. That looks really cute. So at this point, I'm good with that. I'll hit OK. And OK, I'm done editing. And now I'm going to transfer it to my Luminaire. So I'll simply hit the transfer button here. It'll take a few seconds. And now it's told me that it's already sent it to my Luminaire. And we'll go get it right now. So let's pop over to the Luminaire really quickly. And as I told you, it's going to be in the My Design Center. So we'll pop into the Design Center here. And the way you retrieve it is in the Shapes icon here. And then you've got a brand new icon up here at the top, which looks just like your scan and cut. So select this one, and we'll give it just a second. You can see I've sent lots of things over, but that's the pattern I just made a second ago. So I'll bring that in. And there you have it. Now I'm going to assign a run stitch to this. So I'll just take a second here while it's on the screen. And I'm going to go into my settings and choose a run. And I'm going to choose a purple color just so I can make sure that when I assign it with the flood fill here, and then I'll just click on each one of those. And now it's a two-part thing. You've got the flower, and then you've got the little center of the flower. So make sure you click on each one of those. And at this point, and remember how amazing this is, right? I'm taking a shape from my scan and cut. I brought it into the Design Center, and now I'm assigning a stitch to it. Pretty cool. So then at this point, I typically come in and I go back into that same shapes icon. And I've got the hoop option here. And I'll choose the hoop that I'm using. So let's say I'm using my quilt sashing hoop that's 7 by 14. All right. And at this point, I'm now going to add a stipple all the way around my flowers. So I'll come in here to the flood fill region of the Design Center, and I'm going to come in here and choose a stipple pattern. And then I'll choose a color that you can see on the screen really well. And then I'm going back to that flood fill, and I'm going to touch inside of the hoop and outside of my flowers. And you can see really quickly it's applied the stipple pattern all around. And you see these little voids where my flower patterns are. Now, for this project, when I'm actually stitching it, I would have more flower repeats in here, so it was full of flowers and stipple. But this gives you an idea of how you can do this. Once you have this, you can go to the next page. And this is where we can adjust anything that we've done up until this point. So you can see my stipple and my flowers in the run stitch. All right, so I might want to make my stipple pattern a little bit larger so that I have less stitches and I can get my project done a little bit faster. So I actually came in here and I changed my stipple pattern to a 4. So we'll do that really quickly here. And you'll notice that it's really going to loosen that up and reduce the stitch count and make it quicker to stitch out. So that's really easy. You could also come in here and set a little buffer between the edges in your stipple pattern if you didn't want to worry about it going off the edges. So that would be another option for you to make in there. And once you read something that you like, you simply go to set, and now it's converted it into an embroidery design, and I'm ready to stitch it out on my project. Isn't that amazing?
Wow. I love that background showing up.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's really, so you can see exactly what it's going to look like on your project. It's really simple and really easy to do. Now, for those of you, for those of you with the Stell layer or the PR1055X, you can't do exactly the way I just showed you a second ago, but you can still use the shapes that are on your scan and cut and create the same kind of custom stipple pattern. So really quickly, what we would do in that case is at the scan and cut, rather than transferring it, I would bring in the pattern and I would put the drawing pens in my scan and cut and I would draw out the pattern on a piece of paper. So let me show you really quickly here. I've done that. So here, the same pattern, I've drawn it out with the pens on a piece of paper with a scan and cut. And so with the Stell layer or the PR1055, I could use my design snap with a Stell layer, or I can use the camera on the 10 needle to scan it, take that into the design center. It will capture those same shapes for me. I would assign the run stitch just like I did here and then put the stipple around it. So it's really nice to know that you can use those shapes on the scan and cut regardless of which one of the machines you have. And I love that as well. Brother's really good about, making these features available on our machines.
Very easy to do. And you know what? There's so many people here that I know have Stell layers and have the other machines. And to be able to show both, I mean, one just is faster than the other. And as technology keeps changing, everything keeps rolling. But that doesn't mean that if you have the Stell layer, you can't still do this. And in fact, my design center's been on the machines for a long time. So, well, quite a few years. So check your machine, like the Dream machine, things like that. There's just a little bit newer features on the Luminaire as far as my connection and stuff.
Yep, I would agree. And it's really nice to do. And so the only other thing that I thought your viewers might be interested in is, it's almost 40 inches long. So some people sometimes get concerned about when they're doing that continuous embroidery, how they make sure that the quilting patterns don't overlap one another, that kind of thing. So let's pop back to the machine for a minute so I can show you something here. So I'm going to come in to embroidery. And I actually saved that pattern earlier today. So I'm going to pull it back up. So here's a stipple pattern here, and we'll set it. Now, I do two things when I'm doing something like this. Here, when I'm in my embroidery edit screen, I like to come up and scan my fabric in the back, and it just takes a few seconds. And what it'll do is it'll take a picture of what's in my hoop, and it'll superimpose my embroidery design right on top of it, which is super useful for quick placement. And the reason I like to start here is, for me, it's easier to adjust for rotation when I can see the entire field. We'll use the projector in just a second to quick check a couple of places in here. But at this point, if I had any rotation, I could see it really easily on the screen because I can see the whole field. Now, I didn't have this part quilted, but I have, assuming I had finished quilting, the other thing that I do is I've taken a friction pen and I've made a dark line across the fabric that's in my hoop so that I can make sure that I can see where that previous stipple pattern ended, and that line is right here. And then what I can do here really quickly is if I need to move anything, I can go to the move and I can say, oh, well, this can come up a little bit closer here, or maybe I need to move it to the side. But I've got 95% of my perfect placement done right here. And then once I get to embroidery, of course, I've got the projector, which will then shine that quilting pattern directly onto the fabric in my hoop. And I typically just, when I'm doing something like this, I'm going to check that join area right here just to make sure that none of those stipples actually overlap. And then I'm ready. That looks perfect to me. I'm ready to hit OK and start stitching. So it is really, really quick work, even though it's, several hoopings. The hoop is 16 inches long, but you can get through 40 inches in just a few minutes.
Yeah, I love that feature. And you know, I think it just makes it so much easier. You can see exactly where it is. Right on there for the projector. Now, for somebody on the still air, what would you recommend for that? Just scan in their mat.
Yeah, they can take the picture with the My Design Snap app. I would still do the friction pen to make that dark line, especially when you try and match. I intentionally used a darker thread when I did my quilting so you could see it on camera, but many times you would coordinate, and so there's not much of a color difference between the thread and the fabric. And in that case, making that line with the friction pen, you can absolutely see the edges in those images for placement.
Absolutely. And I didn't mean mat. I was thinking scan and cut. Scan in your embroidery hoop. And one more thing, Tina, while you're at that machine, that hoop, a lot of people maybe have not seen that. The magnetic hoop is amazing. Could you just give them another look at that?
It is such an awesome hoop. So check this guy out. 7 by 14 inches. He's got 8 magnets. Super easy to get your fabric in there. There's a tool to lift them if you need help getting them lifted, but it's easy enough to do with your hands. It holds thick batting, 2 layers of fabric. Nothing moves. It is an amazing hoop. I use this hoop all the time.
Very cool. I love that one. That's one I always am grabbing that one now. It's just easy, even on lightweight fabrics. You just slide the fabric around, no hoop burn.
It's amazing. So, we talked about the casserole carrier, right? But even with half a jelly roll strip, I had enough fabric left over to make a coordinating pot holder and 2 placemats. How awesome is that?
Oh, how nice.
And that's just half of a jelly roll strip. Now, look at the binding here. I did do bias binding, and I had a wider width than I typically use. This is about a 1/2 inch, and that was perfect for me to get good coverage around my edges and super easy to do. But yeah, and the same kind of quilting pattern, so everything coordinates. And if on the back, they're beautiful too, right? So you could actually have these as reversible.
I like reversible because it takes up less room. You can have 2 whole different themes, 2 totally different looks.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, a couple tips while we're talking about what's inside of things. I talked about the special batting that you use to hold the heat in. It comes in a couple of different ways. This one is directional. So if you buy the one where you can see the aluminum foil part, read the instructions to make sure that you have it facing in the right direction. So that's actually holding the heat in, not keeping the heat out. The other way that it comes is it's basically got white, almost feels like batting on both sides, and the aluminum foil part in the middle. And that one, you don't have to worry about the directionality.
That's a good tip. And what I'll try to do is, for those of you know that whenever we have a project where this is not a brother product, I will add this onto the blog post with this video, so you can go back and watch the replay if you go to angelawolf.com. Angela Wolf, no P on the end. And that way, so Tina can give me some names of the ones that are her favorites that are not brother products for you.
Yep, perfect. And then not for the casserole carrier or the pot holder, but for the placemat where you would use regular just quilt batting. This is a great time to kind of be a recycler and use up all your little scraps and remnants. And so inside of my placemats, I had lots of little small pieces of batting left over. I basically layer 2 pieces on top of each other, cut it with the rotary cutter so that the edges are the same, and then just run it through the sewing part of the machine with a wide zigzag stitch, and take all those little pieces and make them big pieces. And then instead of wasting all that batting, I'm actually creating pieces that are large enough for projects like a placemat. So that's a good tip. I know that there are people who do the same thing with stabilizer. You have a lot of those pieces sometimes of the mesh stabilizer that are too small for a project and you hate to waste it. This is a great way that you can join those small bits together and still have something usable for your projects.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
So let me show you, we still haven't talked about the hook and loop tape. So I'm going to get the casserole carrier back with a smaller container. So give me 1 second here.
All right. And be sure all of you, even though we're not bringing your questions up, we are in the comments right now. So ask your questions. If you have any questions about any of this so far. And again, if you want to go back and follow through all the steps that she did in my design center, if you're on Facebook, share this to your page. And if you're on YouTube, there's a little click where you can add it to your watch later list or favorites or share. So that's an easy way to watch that on YouTube. I always do that because then I could watch it on TV.
Me too. All right, so I'm going to pop back over here. So here you see the casserole carrier, in case you were wondering kind of how it comes together. This is with a smaller container, right? But I want to really focus right now on the hook and loop tape. All right, so on the end that has the teeth, that actually gets affixed to the outside fabric here. All right, and then I guess the softer side, what do you call that? The loops? Must be the loop part. Get my terminology all correct here. You can see I have 2 sets of strips here, and I made them about 3.5 inches long. This one out here accommodates my larger casserole dish, the 13 by 9, but the smaller one here accommodates the 8 by 8. So I basically I made it for the bigger one and wrapped it, and then I took out the small one and figured where the little hook and loop tape closure should be here to accommodate it. And so this one carrier now can be used for both sizes of containers. And it's just a matter of where you have the hook and loop tape joiners, right? Isn't that cool? I love that feature.
Oh, I love that. Hey, Tina, could you show, actually, I like that for a few reasons. I was thinking that you could even have just a really long strip of hook and loop tape without even separating. Then you could cover all kinds of different bowls. But can you show that to them real quick? So just to walk them through putting it together, just for those that might think, okay, now what do I do?
Okay, so we had let me stick my dowel rod back here in the handle here. So we have the 2 long pieces that we made. Let's see. So this is the one that this is the piece that doesn't have the oval cutouts for the handle. So it's just a big long rectangle. All right. So on that one, you've got the loop part of your hook and loop tape goes on the one end. And again, you'll hit the placement based on the sizes of your dishes. And at the opposite end, we have the hook part of the hook and loop tape. Whoops, here we go here. And again, that's so that when you fold over, those 2 will match. All right. Now the handle component actually gets placed down first, and it's horizontal. And then you center this part over it, and it goes vertically, right? And so then it's just like, it's kind of like putting a diaper on a baby at certain points, right? You just hook it over and hook it, and then the handle 2 pieces basically fold in the opposite direction. And then here on the handle ends, while we're looking at it here, I had that little dotted line for the fold. Just fold in 2.5 inches or whatever you need to accommodate the handles that you're going to choose, and stitch that down. And then, as you can see, my dowel rods or my wooden spoons would basically just feed right in through this end. Super easy. And what I liked about this is I can take the handles out when I pop it in the washing machine, and I don't have to worry about the handles.
Oh, that's nice. That is so simple. So if you take the handles out, that's very easy to do. And then just looking at that right there, is that just bias tape that went around the curbs there?
Yeah, I actually made it. I cut fabric strips 2.25 inches wide. I didn't do the double fold. I just basically sewed it on the edges with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, folded it around, tucked under a 1/2 inch, and then just did the edge stitching here to join it all the way around.
Very nice. That is such a simple project, but when you add that quilting and the patchwork look, it just makes it look so expensive.
Isn't it cute? Yeah, and it's like I said, it was really the hardest part was trying to figure out like the sizes of everything. But once you kind of wrap your head around sizing it to your dishes, then the rest of the construction, like you said, is super quick and easy to do. Yep.
Very easy. I would love to know in the comments, as I'm in there with you, and Tina is too. I would love to know which was your favorite on going back to your little quilt pieces. The square. I don't. What is the name for the one? What ended up looking like chevron, but it really wasn't intended to be that way, I don't think. And I think that's my favorite.
This one, I think, yeah, I do. I really like that one too. I think the next one I do, I'm going to do this way. But you know, the other way you could do this, I mean, think about tailgating, because the fall's coming up soon too. Get your collegiate licensed fabrics and make it up in your favorite school team and take it to tailgates. I mean, the possibilities of it are endless, right?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I was actually thinking of just some birthday parties coming up and having it. I mean, there's so many things here. Tina, this is such an easy project, but so beautiful. If you went to buy one of those, you would pay a lot of money. I'm just thinking of some of the quilted handbags and stuff. You've seen the price on there. This would be even double that. So, any tips for once you have that? You said you throw it in the wash, but with that extra batting in there, that's the heating, whatever you call that. There's a name for it, but is there anything special you have to be careful of? Obviously not the microwave, but if you're washing it, can you still dry it or do you hang it to dry? Any tips for taking care of it?
I'm not the easiest on my stuff, so I throw it in the washing machine and I throw it in the dryer, and I haven't had any problems. The one thing I would say, because you got hook and loop tape in there, you may want to, if you have anything else in the washing machine with it that might be harmed by the hook part of the hook and loop tape, you might want to safety pin it together closed, right? Or just put it, actually, the last time I did it, I stuck it in a lingerie bag and threw it in the washer and just let it finish through the dryer and didn't worry about it.
That's a good idea. That's a good tip for anybody that has outfits with some hook and loop tape, because I'll tell you what, it will snag like there's no tomorrow, and then wait till it gets in your hair. That's a double.
That's definitely true.
Tina, this has been such a great project. So do you have any tips, just last minute tips? A lot of people are just getting used to using My Connection, and it literally was as simple as you showed it there. You send it to one machine, you could even send it back if you wanted to, but it was that simple.
Yeah, and it takes just a few seconds. And again, it would have taken me probably an hour of time to draw out those flowers, and they all would have been a hot mess and they wouldn't have matched each other, right? And it just took a few seconds and they're all perfect, right? And then adding this, and you didn't have to use a stipple. If you wanted to use one of the decorative fills on the machine, you could do that too, right? And that would be great as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the technology on Brothers machines makes crafting, I don't know, almost so easy, right? Like people at your project and they're like, oh, that's so amazing. I can't believe that you did that. And you're like, I want to act like it was really hard, but it really was pretty easy.
It was really easy. You know, that's the part of technology that has grown so much, and Brother's been on top of it. And but they make it very easy to learn. At first, it could be a little intimidating, but literally, it's just touching a few buttons. And again, you can save this video. You can go back to many of the At Your Side Virtually that Brother has that on. And a lot of those give you tutorials step by step on how to do this. Once you got it down, it's like riding a bike until the next technology comes out, right?
That's true.
All right. Any other last minute tips for us, Tina?
No, get out there, get your casserole carriers made, and start going to those picnics. It's summer.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing, actually. And by the way, down below, you can see it says #BrotherSews. When you share your projects on Instagram, Facebook, on social media, be sure to use #BrotherSews or #BrotherScanandCut. They love to see what you're working on, and you might be featured on the Brother page next. So, Tina, thank you for an awesome show. All of you, it's been so much fun hanging out with you in the comments. Until next time, happy sewing.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'm afraid I have a confession to make. I'm actually here undercover. March, now. I came to Quilt Club to gain the knowledge and insight to help build the best collection of quilting machines Brothers made. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you I was undercover. Can you find it in your hearts to forgive me? Let's quilt.